Welcoming everyone to session 3 of day 2. Here, the esteemed panelists are going to discuss about leveraging digital technologies in the ENP industry for increased efficiency. For this, we have Mr. H.P. Singh as the chair of the session. For the co-chair, we have Dr. P.K. Painuly. Dr. Pramod Kumar Painuly is professor at the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. He is a distinguished educator, Society of Petroleum Geophysicist, American Association of Petroleum Geologists, EAGE. He has been in the ENP industry for over 42 years, working with multiple organizations such as ONGC Limited, Reliance Industries, and Repsol Madrid. Sir, may I now request you to commence the session, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Esteemed guest, my fellow panelists, and the chair of the sessions. Heartiest welcome. I welcome you on these sessions. This is the third session of the day, which is scheduled on leveraging digital technologies in the E&P industry for operational excellence. So let me make the starting comments from my side and introduce the chair of this esteemed chair of this session. So the idea is the digital is that's the buzzword which is actually gaining reality in the context of the Indian E&P industry today, and I'm very pleased to state that the initiative of the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas in 2020-21, we have successfully launched digitization E&P roadmap in the Indian context. And many of us have contributed to that policy document. Very happy, and I think this is the sessions where some of those initiatives and implementations measures would be illustrated by the panelists, the six panelists, three coming from the operating companies, including national oil companies and the private companies in India, and the three panelists coming from the technology and the service providers. So it's a right mix of see what are the business drivers for how it has been implemented, and what are the main thrust areas for these oil companies, for the operating companies, and the global digital initiatives that are being provided by the service companies and the digital companies. So with this, let me first introduce our esteemed chair of this panel, Mr. H.P. Singh. He's a dear friend, Executive Director, Chief Information Officer of the Oil and Gas ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation of India, the premier PSU of India. He's heading the IT, OT, data centers, telecom, and ERP groups. He's the man responsible for the digital transformation of ONGCs, and he would, in his summary, he would give his own comments how the ONGC is implementing that. He's also assisted. One of the other panelists would also give you the ONGC's perspective, which is the second panelist. But Mr. Singh is heading these large initiatives being implemented by ONGCs in digital transformations. So he's 35 years into ONGC. He has contributed almost in all spheres of ONGC, upstream, where there was an endurance test for many of the oil and gas companies, including service providers, and he played a crucial role in enabling the continuity of oil field operations across the assets in ONGC. He has been conferred with the prestigious IDC Industry Innovation Awards, IDG CIO 100 Awards, and Governance New Digital Transformational Leaderships. So welcome on board, sir. You are the chair of the sessions. Thank you very much. Now, there are 6 speakers, as I mentioned. The first speaker I'm going to introduce is Sudhir, Vijay Kumar, Madhugiri. So welcome on board, sir, on these sessions. His topic is digital optimizations and imperatives in the exploration and production. That's the title of his talk. But his brief biodata that I has a long biodata. I'm going to read some part of this. He's the executive partner with Gartner, 22 years working experience across many IT and digital companies, Infosys, Wipro, Thomson Reuters, and now with Gartner as executive partners. He has consulting engagements spanning IT strategy for large global corporations in US and in Europe across multiple industries. Large ERP programs for PSUs and mission mode projects of national e-governance plans and various union ministries in federal governments and Department of State governments has been his foray. He brings with him extensive experience working in diverse culture and business context. In his current role, he acts as a trusted advisor to the chief digital officer or who are adding the CXOs in their pursuit for digital business ambitions to drive optimizations and transformations. He partners with CXOs in identifying and articulating different business problems and the synthesis and relevant Gartner assets to help them navigate their digital business ambitions. Welcome on board, sir. That's Sudhir. Then we have a very vibrant friend on board who is coming from ONGC, Mr. B. Paparaju. He's the executive director, head operational technology of ONGC. And we had a chance to get together at Dhuriyajan last year. He's the head of operational technology, as I just mentioned. During his career, 37 years of industry experience. He has held many key positions and contributed significantly in various technology domains in ONGCs. Some of his areas which are listed before me, and I'm very happy to state that: production SCADA upgrades, offshore and onshore fields, drilling SCADA upgrades, real-time data monitoring and management, CCTV analytics, corporate experience centers, collaboration centers set up by ONGC, IoT-based wireless condition monitoring and rotating equipments, cybersecurity for OT and IT integrations, drone and counter-drone systems. This is one area I really love to talk about. SRP optimizations, satellite-based navigation, band IoT, cloud computing, AL, ML. So there are many forays to his account. Welcome, Mr. Paparaju. Thank you for joining us. Then we have Mousimi Deka, Ms. Mousimi Deka, who is the general manager and head of the ERP at another PSU, prestigious premier PSU in India, which is the All India Limited. She is joining from Dhuliajan. 30 years of experience in ENP sector, especially in IT and ERP, computer software developments, life cycle along with developments, administration and management of data centers, disaster recovery stage. She is one of the core team members of the digital transformation project of the All India Limited. She has published as well as presented several technical papers in various in-country as well as on the international forums. We had a chance to see what their department is doing at Thuliajan. So very happy to introduce Mousimi Deka to this forum and more eager to hear from her. Then we have, I don't know whether we are joined by Saurabh Tayal. No, we just have 4 speakers.
He's joined, right, he's joined.
Okay, joined. All right. So thank you, Mr. Saurabh Tayal. He'll be talking on digital maturity and need of transformation in ENP. He is a senior principal with Accenture, with 20 years of working experience in oil and gas sectors, upstream and downstream both. His work span across Indian oil majors from ONGC, HPCL, and the global oil majors like BP, Shell, and Exxon. His current focus is digitization across oil and gas assets. And then we have Sandeep Gupta. I hope you joined, sir.
Yes, Mr. Gupta is here.
Yes, sir, I'm on.
Acha,
Yes.
okay, all right, sir. So I have a great pleasure introducing our fifth speaker of the day. It is actually the third speaker of the day, Sandeep Gupta, Chief Digital and Information Officer, Cairn India Limited. As a Chief Digital Information Officer at Cairn India Limited, he is leading the IT and digital functions with key responsibilities to identify and execute digital projects across upstream value chain of exploration and drilling, surface and subsurface operations. And thank you very much for joining us. We'll have a chance to see how Cairn Energy is implementing the digital transformations across their projects. Then we have Salwa Mohammed Noor. She's a young professionals from Halliburton India Private Limited. 13 years of experience working in the oil and gas industry in service providing companies. She holds MSc degree in petroleum geology from the University of Malay, Kuala Lumpur. She is currently a technical sales consultant based in Kuala Lumpur, working closely with clients in Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei. Welcome on board, Ms. Noor. So thank you very much. That was a brief bio reading of and introducing all the panelists. And here is what we are going to roll out the first. I'm going to invite the first speaker with the permission of the chair, sir. Let me invite or you want to say first couple of words before I invite the first speaker? Cheers. Cheers.
Yeah, I just wanted to, because already you have covered the areas. In fact, just I wanted to say that we have a perfect combination of the people here in the panel. We have representation from the national oil company. We have representations from the private oil company. We have representation from one of one of the best consultants, technocrats. So everybody is there. So I think the deliberation during the discussion will be very fruitful for the ENP company. So that what I want to say in the beginning. So I will conclude in the latter part when everybody completes. Thank you. So
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with his permission, I'm going to invite the first speaker of the sessions, Sudhir Madhugiri, Executive Partner, Gartner. He's going to speak on the digital optimizations and imperatives in the exploration and production sectors. So welcome, sir. You may start your presentations. All the best.
Thank you so much, Mr. Painuly and the chair. Pleasure and honor to be associated with this event and having this opportunity to share some of the perspectives that Gartner presents to the industry folks in this space. So what I'll do is broadly, I'll cover the context to the digital opportunities that exist in the ENP space. Take you through a lens of how do you look at this entirety of the opportunities that exist for all of us, and then get into some high-level recommendations on how organizations can go about navigating this journey. Because what we see is this industry particularly has a bit of catch-up to do when it comes to adopting certain kinds of technologies. While they may be very good in adopting certain other kinds of technologies, but when it comes to adopting emerging technologies for certain use cases, there's a bit of catch-up to do. While this session may not give the entirety of the list of opportunities that exist, I'll make an attempt to share some of the technological levers that organizations could explore and then use that for optimizing and transforming their enterprises. Now, with that backdrop, some of the forces that we are all very much aware, I wouldn't get into any of these in detail. The kind of market disruption we see, geopolitics and otherwise, currency fluctuations and so on. The rapid rate at which technology is evolving and the rate at which technology is being absorbed in the oil and gas space in general. The energy transitions that we're all seeing, whether it is hydrogen, lithium, any of the things that we see, the non-fossil based energy sources that we are seeing, and the breakthroughs that we see even in the energy space in terms of the OT and ET, operations technology and engineering technology related evolutions and revolutions that we are seeing. I think all of these things are making organizations kind of be very jittery, right? Because the kind of uncertainty this is throwing up is something that we have not kind of been used to in the recent past. But it's also a fantastic opportunity to reshape the enterprise by creating certain new kind of business capabilities, relooking at what are the opportunities to optimize the business performance, but most importantly, underpinning all of these things is the conversation around how do you lay very strong technological foundations. Because what we have seen, this industry in general has come about in technology adoption is it has incrementally grown over a period of time. Strategy has been kind of a laggard when it comes to how technology has been leveraged. Now, having said that, is this space going to slow down at all? But if you really kind of look deep into the next decade, which we want to stargaze into, the rate of change is just going to increase. Any one of these levers that you see, the disruption elements that you see, each one of them are very fast evolving, which means for us as participants here on the panel and as leaders who are driving the agenda and the organizations that we represent, there is significant, I would say, I wouldn't say challenges, but I'd say significant opportunities for us to explore. Now, how are companies responding, right? When we as Gartner speak to our global customer base in this space, how are organizations really looking at it and responding? Broadly, what we see is almost every organization we speak has a very, I would say, thought through digital strategy of sorts. When I say thought through, I'm not saying it's encapsulating everything, but there's a strategy that they're pursuing. All these organizations have a target for reducing cost, and all these organizations are also looking at how they should increase the spend. And you see some of the data points that we have captured in our recent surveys that we have done with the organizations. Now, this is just a high-level data point, but what does it really mean? What is the nuance around that data point that I presented? There's a vast spectrum of our customers in this entire chain that you see on this slide, saying some of them are on the left side where they're really trying to become incremental improvers in their capabilities. They're looking at how they can tweak slightly their business models, their business operations in the interest of driving efficiencies and probably heading towards specialization. The next level of opportunities that organizations are exploring is they're being very opportunistic and trying to see that what are some of the projects that they can take out, which are probably in the emerging technologies, and make some strategic bets. Now, the first two boxes that you see here are the organizations which are typically focused on optimization opportunities, saying that we're not changing the business model or the operating model significantly. We are using technology for improving certain operational metrics that we think is important for our enterprise. So that's the way, the organizations that come here are taking care of how they're leveraging technology. But the ones who are really the movers and shakers in the industry are the ones who are reshaping certain aspects of their operating model, certain aspects of the way they have gone about their business models and business platforms. And also the last ones here, very few companies would be in this side of the spectrum where they're almost becoming energy entrepreneurs. In the sense, how are they integrating new energy sources into their business mix and trying to innovate? Largely today's conversation, I wouldn't go into specifics of each of these things, but I'll definitely touch upon technologies which all these organizations are using at varying degrees of intensity and success. So, the vast spectrum of technologies, the optimization-led technologies could be in the areas of analytics, visualization, remote operations, and so on. The transformation initiatives, the areas around digital twins, the areas around autonomous operations, these are some of the places. One of the key areas, of course, that is very fast emerging is the ESG space in terms of how do you kind of put in a lot of resources under the ESG umbrella to ensure that you're compliant and you're continuously going towards the net zero emissions. The last one is the transition part, which we'll not cover in the conversation today at all. Now, having said that, if we were to kind of see where the world is at current state, right? As Gartner, we kind of track the maturity of organizations which are investing in digital technologies. And what you see on this slide is a quick summary of the 60 odd KPIs that we measure with our customers. We're just showing you 6 on this slide. And what you see is the leading organizations are focusing very extensively on the culture development in the organization towards digital dexterity. cultivating the organization's ability to consume digital for operational excellence as well as transformation. That is one differentiator of the leaders. The second one is the focus on operational excellence, essentially about what are high value opportunities for adopting technologies and a combinatorial set of technologies, right? Because today technology, whether it's AI or cloud or automation, don't operate in silos. It's a combinatorial technological combination that works in the field. They're driving operational excellence by using a combination of technologies, predictive, preventive, all kinds of technologies, but most importantly, using agile methods. That's one of the key differentiators there. They're not following the large waterfall methods of executing projects, but looking at how they can do very minimum viable kind of prototypes and quickly launching into the products. The last one, of course, today, across industries, I'm not saying E&P alone or oil and gas in general, but across industries, if there's one that is very fast, getting adopted in a big way as a technological lever, that is AI and ML part of it. Now, one thing to take heart here is for all of us, in general, the industry's adoption rate of AI ML has been low. So is the case with data lakes, which means there's significant headrooms for us as leaders to look at these opportunities for us to drive certain change for the better in our organizations. Now, having covered what's the state of the universe here, what are some of the new capabilities that organizations are chasing or that is required for them? Broadly, I'll go back to first principles. Now, if you really see what's some of the challenges in the E&P space, there's a lot of actors in the upstream segment. There are multiple points of integration, exchange, collaboration that is needed. There are multiple points of failures as well. So what's really needed is outreach in terms of ensuring that all the players get together. And like Mr. Painuly mentioned, one of the initiatives in 2020-21 that was done as the digitization roadmap, I think all the stakeholders got together to craft something which was probably very unique in itself in terms of the intensity with which it was written and the exhaustive nature that it had as a document that we came out with. The next part is how do you partner with these stakeholders that are there in the upstream to accelerate innovation? Quite often, innovation in this space is very difficult, not because it's a technological challenge or an investment challenge. It's also a challenge of interoperability and working with a variety of stakeholders in this space. And adding to the woes here is legacy technologies that are there, which means integration, data exchange, building models and other things becomes that much more difficult, which also leads me to the other point saying somewhere the digital initiatives here are not comprehensive enough to take a complete use case value chain view, but are siloed, which is where the incremental benefits that you get is very limited when it comes to the multiplicative benefits you could get if you look at the entire value stream. And the last one is unlocking the economic value, like I said, by working with the ecosystem. So broadly, if I were to say what are some of the first principles leading organizations are revisiting, it is these four aspects. Now, the heart of the presentation in terms of saying what could be the entire universe of technologies that organizations are leveraging for resilience and for automation and for digital foundations, you see that on this slide. Now, each one is a chapter in itself, right? If I were to speak about any one of that, I'll not be able to do justice to the others. So what I've just done on this slide is to just list them out. And if I were to call out, and I'm sure participants in this session and panelists will very well recognize some of the solutions that are available in this space, like petroleum economic solutions that organizations are adopting, portfolio management solutions, asset investment planning, in terms of saying that are there opportunities for us to modify the existing asset base that we have, or is it a maintenance that we need to do, and so on and so forth. So building resilience, building partnerships, building alignment, that's the first block of technologies that I've listed out here. The second one in terms of how do you expand the value. So aspects of integrated planning and operations, this is what I was mentioning in terms of trying to break the silos between the various stakeholders here. Leveraging data for upstream modeling, looking at adopting autonomous vehicles for various use cases, which also helps you when it comes to the safety aspects of workers and workforce. Then the aspects around asset performance management, predictive maintenance, and so on and so forth, and advanced degree of RTRO, the real-time remote operations. I'm sure every organization has something going in this, but expanding the opportunities there and ensuring that it goes far beyond what it does currently. So these are some of the opportunities in the value expansion space. I wouldn't cover ESG because it's a huge topic, very fast evolving, but in a very, I'd say, infant stage, simply because the kind of data that we need for scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, the kind of systems we need to capture that, consume that, and report, I think is still evolving. So which means that's going to wait for a while. The last one is the most important one that I'd like to stress in this discussion, the need for building very strong digital foundations. And I've listed a few here. The first one probably is the most important one in terms of organizations very consciously adopting standard-based data modeling, right? So the OSDU is one such opportunity that organizations have to look at how you can drive certain standardizations, because historically it has been fragmented way in which data models have evolved. And also leveraging the emerging technologies like cloud, data lakes, API management solutions. And of course, this space having a lot of physics, spatial aspects and other things, leveraging those things when it comes to modeling AI and ML. So these are some of the technologies that leaders are adopting in a I'd say, there is no method to this madness based on the opportunity size, based on the industry or the company context. Various organizations have adopted a multiple set of these technologies. I do have case studies, but I'm sure we may not have time to get into those case studies in this presentation. If I were to just kind of quickly summarize all those opportunities that I showed you on this slide, essentially we are talking about intelligent assets. We're talking about ecosystem and partnership evolution. We're talking about building the enterprise technology landscape, which is composable and agile. And lastly, I think environment performance has become very critical. These are some, I'd say, broad 4 capabilities in which you can list your opportunities and handpick which ones you want to prioritize. Now, moving on from here, after you kind of prioritize, what could be some of the ways in which you would measure the success or measure the progress towards the success that you're driving? So as Gartner, we recommend organizations to very clearly define KPIs, and we call this digital KPIs because they are related to your business objectives, but at the end of the day, they're grounded in the way technology is being adopted to realize that business KPI. So there are 3 example KPIs that you see here. The first one, putting on certain simulation technologies in the oil wells. And this one is talking about how modeling or adopting some of these things in a particular use case. It works very well in this particular example. Say up to 80% of new fields in this organization, they can leverage this solution. 20% there is no benefit by leveraging that. In the legacy fields, only 10% of those legacy fields that they have can adopt this technology, but remaining 90 do not have the ability for various reasons, maybe the way the data is articulated and so on. So not just handpicking initiatives, but very clearly defining the opportunity space and tracking progress towards that opportunity space. Now, if you see the last metric here as an example, a particular organization has gone and said, what's their target to incrementally increase the adoption of a particular AI enhanced process that they are using in edge innovation. So what I'm trying to kind of convey through this slide is quite often the business value of the technology investment is always a question. If that is a question, the best way to answer that question is adopting some of the KPIs that will help you show directionally whether you're getting to the final business KPI. Now, if I were to just kind of come towards the end in terms of very quickly summarizing what could be some of the operational excellence imperatives for your transformation journey, I have listed some of those things here. One of the key things in this space is the need for accessing the right kind of talent to bridge the gap. Now, if you see the kind of panelists in this session itself, or the panelists who've come in all the sessions that have happened here, it's testimony to the fact that this is an extremely complex kind of industry to be operating with, which means skills, not just the domain, but technology skills becomes paramount. And getting the right kind of that technology resources to drive these innovation opportunities becomes critical. The next thing is the ecosystem, the partnerships, driving those things to expand the value opportunities that are there. That becomes the second important lever. The third one is in terms of not losing sight of ESG and worker safety. Broadly, these would be some of the high-level recommendations that I would say. And if I were to just conclude this brief talk that I had with you on what are some of the next actions we as Gartner would recommend, we would recommend every business leader hearing this session or hearing this after the session to champion one specific game-changing strategic technology. The reason this is important is quite often sponsors for technology initiatives in this space is lacking. Sponsorship is lacking, and that leads to technology adoption being slow. The next one is every technology leader that would be hearing this. Our request to you is please champion strategic investments to make your company more composable. What we mean by that is the digital foundations that you're laying for various initiatives, ensure that they are agile, nimble, and can make the difference. The third one is every executive that is there, please drive operations roadmaps towards autonomy and intelligent operations. That's where operational efficiencies will get unlocked. And the last one, all the CIOs and CDOs, please ensure you integrate and simplify the technologies across all domains. So this is the brief kind of overview I had to the opportunity space, the context, and some of the high-level recommendations that we have. I'm sure rest of the speakers will have specific cases like the Cairn use case and so on that will elaborate on some of the things that I've touched upon here. Thank you to the chair and Mr. Painuly. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhir, for that. The very comprehensive landscape, digital landscape that you have presented. It's a subject by itself, many subjects put together, but some of the catchwords, some of the things that really inspire me from these presentations. Someone talking about digital KPIs as a direct value measures. This is a great thing. I think this is how the companies. Two aspects. One is the digital maturity, and other is the digital readiness of the companies. So, well, very, very nicely highlighted by you. Thank you very much for enlightening everybody with your very informative session today. All right. So, thank you. So, I'm going to invite the second speaker, great speaker, who's going to present the digital transformation implementations in the ONGC, a great company. Mr. Paparaju, Executive Director and Head of Operational Technology of ONGCs. His topic is going to be initiatives and implementations of digital technologies in ONGC. So over to you, Mr. Paparaju, and I'm sure everybody is going to be benefited from your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Painuly, and respected chair, co-chair, my esteemed distinct panel. It's a privilege for me to be a part of this session, and I thank the organizer Upstream Ahead and ONGC for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this session. I'll be covering specifically some of the initiatives and implementation and giving you some practical snapshots of what has been done and what is in the short journey ahead, what is we are planning in the near future. In the ENP roadmap of the Government of India released for the roadmap ahead, there are 4 key elements defined for digital landscape. They are data, technology, new ways of working, and new business models. So I tried my best in my presentation to cover this. So let's hope it meets, and any questions are welcome. Yeah. I'll start with an opening statement of Ayn Rand, though not connected to digital transformation, because I am sure that in our age there was no digital transformation. But I find a lot of connection here, that we can avoid reality, but we cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. And digital transformation is the new reality. We cannot avoid the digital transformation. And we also heard many areas that data is the new oil. And this was first coined by Mr. Clive Humby, a UK mathematician, in 2006. We all know that data is valuable, but if unrefined, it cannot really be used. Because to convert data to information, that's a challenge. Data has to be changed into oil, gas, plastic, chemicals, etc. ultimately as information bytes to create a valuable entity that drives profitable activity. Data must be broken down, analyzed for it to have value. And for all this, the data has to be reliable, clean, and accurate. So how to make the data clean, reliable, and accurate? So we try to address in some of the initiatives we have taken. Offshore oil and gas industry has always been in the forefront to test and deploy digital process automation technologies. Specifically in ONGC case, in offshore, we have heavily automated infrastructure over there since 80s, but mostly it is in the process automation technologies. So certain level of digital maturity has been achieved with the existing and ongoing projects. The objective is to take this to the next level under Industry 4 and other new technologies. And the main objective is also to have international benchmark practices. In the past, we haven't not much benchmarked our activities with our peers and colleagues or majors in the world, which we are trying to address it. Some of the technology inductions from the past decade specific to ONGC had been in the 80s to 2000, heavily we invested in process automation, DCS, PLCs, remote process monitoring and control, the precursors of SCADA. We had computer centers for G&G operations using the latest, at that time we call them supercomputers. The seismic data acquisition system went into digital. The A to D converters, high-end sigma delta modulators came into picture. But the data transfer at that time was low speed, satellite and microwave communication were there. GPS was introduced, which itself was brought in a huge change in not just the location, but in the timing. Because all the control systems when we are working, when they have to be synchronized. So the GPS gave an opportunity for synchronizing the timing of the clocks of all the various systems. In the last decade, I specifically said 2018, not a decade, because or 2 decades. Because in 2018, we introduced some of the technology, which I'll just come. Again, we advanced distributed control systems. We introduced advanced control DCS systems. It was a technological upgrade from what it was earlier. Data became medium and high speed. Optical fibers were introduced, which enabled, and we introduced in ONGC digital 3-component geophone, which brought in with auto-correcting features. So you can plant at any angle. The data was digitized at the source itself, which enabled us to have high channel count seismic systems. High performance custom computing were introduced. Enterprise SCADA came into picture, and GPS 3 system was evolved. GPS evolved into GPS 3 in these times. In the drilling rigs, we introduced advanced instrumentation system for surface measurements. LWD, MWD, geomechanics were also used. And in ERP, SAP was introduced, and corporate email came into picture. So these are all maybe some of the digital initiatives which were earlier had. And looking ahead, in 2018, I specifically said that we had in a drilling RTDMA, real-time data management analytics was introduced for offshore rigs, which we followed up with real-time data monitoring and management for onshore rigs last year. The data centers are virtualized. We are going into a S4 HANA upgrade. The data transfer is now high speed, which enabled us to have real-time operation centers, integrated operation centers, and the data as transfer has also become cheap compared to what it was earlier. So how do we leverage Industry 4 technologies? This is going to be the new future. AML, analytics, RPA, blockchain, we all have cases there. We have introduced HPCC. Cybersecurity is going to be one of the key feature. Integrated SOC, network operating centers, NAC, some models have all been introduced in ONGC. The ones in green, we find that in the near future, they're going to come up and they're going to be major disruptors. 5G, cloud computing, drones, robotics, 3D printing, virtual desktop infrastructure, distributed acoustic sensing, and 2 or 3 more technologies which I couldn't add you here. One of them is digital twin, edge analytics, and AR/VR. In digital twin, specifically, I'm looking at a different perspective from twin. Twin doesn't mean 1 + 1. Suppose I have 10 DCS systems of a particular vendor. If I have a twin of all, why can't I have a twin replica of all the systems? It is possible. I just need to make the specific configuration file upload. So I see a lot of opportunity there. We have a sort of a simulator type of a thing where we can have one system which replicates depending on the user choice, any other system in the network. Some of the implementations have been the most successful implementation. The second one, Disha, digitalization solution by harnessing automation, digital integration. Now this is a total paperless solution implemented in ONGC, which has really transformed the way we work. Our entire file movement is now total processes, totally paper free. And this has become a mainstay due to tackle the COVID when people had difficulty in attending offices, infrastructure. Work did not stop. The processor did not stop. Work continued because of this platform, Disha. It has been the mainstay of ONGC. And we also developed many portals, some of them as for grievance redressal, for the board meetings, ECEPC. Healthcare information system is totally automated with in-house initiatives. Now, video conferencing is one of the tremendous initiative, which even this 2-day event is happening through VC. So this has really made a game changer. The way we collaborate, the way people work and all. So this is one of the major digital changes. And I see a lot of initiatives coming up for integrating the multi-variable solutions which are available in the market. Maybe the near future, we may have one solution which meets all the solutions, all the different vendors. Email and collaboration. We have an enterprise project management, specifically with Microsoft project management tool completely deployed. And we have another solution deployed on cloud, which is called Samanvai, where ONGC has set up a cloud-based common knowledge management portal for 300 plus CPSs. About 1.4 lakh users of CPSs are there presently registered there. We are upgrading the SAP ECC infrastructure, SAP HANA, S4 HANA. It provides the complete transformation of ERP business, improved analytics, faster computing, better performance. So compute storage, there is tremendously being increased every day. Day in and day out, the performance of new systems, the compute, storage and calculation capacities are increasing tremendously. 23 SAP modules are under upgradation, and we are going to have a Fiori-based mobile access to all, depending on the user necessity. And we have gone for a specific, like the business model, we have gone for the hardware is a specific thing. We have gone for OPEX model for the hardware, which is HANA compliant hardware, and all 3 data centers. We have 3 data centers for SAP, data center main, and we have a near DR disaster recovery and a far disaster recovery. And this is an OPEX pay-per-use model for 10 years with a refresh, technological refresh. So this is a very innovative solution, which we have a business model. In fact, we have implemented, not trying to. Common platform for data analytics. This is platform coming up in a few months. This establishes a common enterprise data analytics framework for multi-domain functional areas. We are giving a platform for business analytics by pulling down data from 30 plus data sources of ONGC. So based on one ONGC, one data source and one analytics thing, we are giving a huge analytical platform for the users to pull data, and we can have multi-domain analytics to facilitate that. We are creating this platform, and we are creating on an SAS platform. We have implemented solutions on robotic process automation, specifically automation. Like one of the typical use cases right now teams are working is we have some of the complicated tasks. We implemented a POC pilot, then we rolled it to production mode in RPA. Some of the tasks which we are right now involved is like we have telephone billings, like many of us have landline collection, offices have telephone connections, and every service provider has his own way of giving the invoice. So we are trying to use RPA to minimize the work being done at our end, to minimize the monotonous jobs. Blockchain, we have implemented for entire gas sale. Our customer gas sales agreement is on a portal which uses blockchain for transaction authenticity. So the transactions are based on blockchain, and the entire portal is based on the blockchain analytics. Mobility, mobile device management has been used to give secure access. One of them is all SCADA OT solutions like drilling solutions. SCADA, we are able to give on mobile device management to the end user on his mobile. So 24/7, depending on the need and requirement, the data is available. We have also established a network access control for ensuring network access of only healthy computers. I'll come to some specific important cases where major initiatives are entailed. Okay. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible for us.
It is.
Okay, I just lost it. Okay, this is for RTDM onshore rigs. This is implemented for all onshore rigs. We have an OPEX, we went for an OPEX model. So we have about right now 48 rigs deployed with this solution. And a lot of technological features have been added up to integrate the data into one common layer. Just give me 1 second. I am just checking why. Yeah. It's visible, but the screen has shrunk for me. You are all visible for me. I just check it out. I'll stop sharing and again share it. Just give me 1 second. Okay, thank you. It has a lot of technical features. We have added aggregation. Earlier, the rigs had data, the drilling SCADA as the precursor of this system, the real-time data monitoring and management was only pulling the data from one system. Now we have added multiple systems from where the data can be pulled, and we have not limited. The objective was to create a strong backbone which will facilitate the data pulling up of the data from any of the layer, because we understand that data to be converted into information needs analytics and the domain specific knowledge. And this is, if I am calling every domain specific company to go to the field and get the data, it becomes laborious and time duration becomes high. So what we have done is we have aggregated data from different sources and created a vehicle so that whoever is interested, we can put the data to him. It can be in-house user, it can be multiple system, it can be any other system. It can be vendor agnostic systems also. The data is aggregated from sources and protocols, transported, and I'll just cover it in the detail in the next slide. Yeah. We have covered multiple protocols which are standard in the field, like Modbus, OPC, CAN bus, WIT-SML, and we are getting data from different sources. Like in addition to the surface parameters, engine parameters, we can monitor how the engine, we can using the same bandwidth and the same infrastructure. A BOP panel, engines, IoT devices, manual form feed, MWD, WWD. So we have all integrated into this. Even the mud logging systems. And data to information, we have gone in for visualization, replication to a data center, at a central data center, and to disaster recovery, storage of this data, alerts and notifications, SMS alerts or email notifications can be done, and then archival, and then transfer of this data. We have added local storage as well as data center storage. So even if there is a network discontinuity, the rig is not isolated, it can work, the system should be available for the rig. And how do I access this information? We have integrated with Active Directory services. Data is available on intranet and internet, web access to bring your own device, and the alerts. Some of the features has been, like we have already covered in verbally, data aggregations, I'm just repeating. And we have also added one important thing. We have added a data quality check and validation as source. To have any analytics, unless somebody validates the data, that becomes a pain point. How do I validate the data for accuracy of specifically of historical data? So we have added data quality checks and validation at the source itself through mathematical tools. And so I'm sure now the data which can become will pass the accuracy test and can be immediately used for analytics. Data transportation from central network, monitoring, visualization. I'll just save some of the snapshots. I'll skip it because of the time. So this is one of the screenshots of this RTDMM system which has been implemented. And these users, this screen is user selectable. Every user can have his own screen defined, depending monitoring his own parameters, what is interested. So this is the surface instrumentation screen with the parameters, like on the bottom screen, you see the parameters, and on the top is time versus depth, the real-time data. I can have real-time data by time as well as depth. These are the engine parameters like the battery voltage, coolant temperatures. In fact, we also earlier did a POC as well as pilot for this engine integration, and we were very successful in identified some of the failures before it happened. We could identify the failures also on some of the specific, like the firing, one of the governor issues and all we could identify. The fuel pressures, coolant temperatures. So these are the data which is now available to the end user. So the end user need not be a drilling person. It can be a mechanical, electrical, device specific. It can be chemistry person also. So irrespective of domain specific, we are giving the access to the data on real time. This is the data with trajectory versus actual. The defined trajectory from the planned data and actual deviation. The other two are the reflections of the main data. This is the directional data from MWD. And we are also implementing one auto drill eWildcat named. So we have integrated that system also into this RTDMM. So the auto drilling functions are enabled here and the data is available live. So this is the system we are implemented for onshore. And earlier, as a precursor to this, we have implemented a real-time data monitoring and analytical management analytics for offshore rigs, which aggregated real-time data with cross-domain collaboration, surface data, and this also has analytics like limited analytics like commercial analytics and technical analytics involved. And this is going to for a refresh with much more enhanced capabilities. Some of the screenshots for these offshore rigs. This is the real-time data. I was showing a screen of 2020, December 2020. Yeah. And this gives analytical single well analytics. It has feature of multi-well analytic features combined. So a lot of analytics has been built into that for the offshore rigs. So this was the drilling initiatives we have taken. And in production SCADA, we have an extensive enterprise-wide SCADA which has been working for the last more than since 2007. It has been working, and when it was implemented, it was Asia's biggest automation network. When it was implemented, it has 146 physical locations, 250 plus production installations into one common layer. Earlier it was 3 layer. Now because the hardware was obsolete, the software was getting into non-support areas from the vendors, from the manufacturers. So we transformed this SCADA architecture to a leaner and efficient 2-tier architecture, taking into view the network speeds have increased, the input of fiber optics, these costs have come up. So we are the second layer we have defined at Delhi at a data center. So this project involved replacement of all IT hardware at all locations, server, all the obsolete hardware, upgrade of OS software application and RTO firmware, integration of all the field locations existing, some of the things in between the new location which came up, new identified DCS systems were integrated. We also installed a centralized vendor agnostic OT historian at corporate level. The objective is to make this has an inbuilt vision and analytical platform for ONGC employees to do the analytics themselves. We are also making sure there are 2 different ways we are looking at analytics solution. We understand that there is no one platform which will meet all the requirements, all the domains. So we are giving for a multivariate solutions. This OT historian is in the form of OSS of Pi historian, which is itself a leading historian, and which has an analytical platform also inbuilt. And we have also made provisions to export this data from the OT historian safely to any vendor platform. So if any XYZ want to do implement some solution, I can test it against the live data with this. We have implemented a disaster recovery center. In this also we have implemented latest graphics with keeping in view of safety guidelines of ISO 101.
Paparaju, 2 minutes. Huh?
Yeah, okay. Minutes. And we have implemented quality checks for data. We have implemented IP whitelisting. We have integrated OT production SCADA with our SAP layer, and we have implemented the enhancement of features of this integration. All the hardware we have implemented Silicon Root of Trust for improving cyber security, and where data centers and DRR equipment are there, we have implemented the virtualization. These are some of the snapshots of this production SCADA. And apart from this, we are doing give me 2-3 minutes more, I'll take a pilot and POC projects. We are implementing 3 SRP layer pilot projects. One is already implemented as a pilot in Tripura for water unloading. SRP has been used. We have automated the entire thing with analytics. And some of the analytics with surface well and SRP monitoring is a functional well. So we have started small with a pilot and we are extending to more wells. And we are also in 2 cases doing a pilot project where we are totally integrating the drive with analytics with SCADA. So controlling a SRP well is a big feature with respect to cyber security. How do you get the data into outside the network? So we are trying to integrate with SCADA of SRP integration. 2 wells, the POC is being done, where we expect the production increase to be 55% with about 31% electrical. And we are also able to cover the electrical faults as well as mechanical and with respect to process also. And we have implemented a POC successfully, IoT based condition monitoring, where I'll just use snapshots of it. And we are also trying to implement integrated dashboards for multiple DCS in the same location. And as I already explained, we are also doing from the drilling data which we are getting, we are trying to implement some analytics with various agencies, stuck pipe analytics, drilling analytics. Yeah, these are some of the snapshots of the SRP automation we did it at Tripura. So we are controlling the entire pump operation from a nearest GCS. We have also established the communication link because that's a very remote area. So we have implemented the entire operational analytics. This is another snapshot at Kaveri we are doing. This is a total in-house initiative. So my point is we are multiple initiatives are being done. And this is another initiative, the smart sensor for the IoT based condition monitoring, whereas one sensor, it's very small. You can see compared to the mobile, the size of the sensor. Now this sensor also has not just vibration, it is skin temperature, 3-dimensional vibration, XYZ axis and high frequency, low frequency operation. It also measures magnetic field, ultrasonic sound, has wireless communication and is designed for hazardous areas. So we have successfully implemented a POC. Now this gives me opportunities for establishing a real-time operation center for all the condition monitoring equipment central. So that's an opportunity. These are some of the screenshots and these are plug and play analytics are there. And it is vendor agnostic, designed for any make and any motor and pump. So I don't have time to go into the analytics. And we are trying to explore AI ML in exploration. This is being done at our premier institute, GeoPic. So these are some of the they are doing with some initiatives are developed in-house and collaboration with IITs and Wadia Institute of Technology. So these are some of the right side, some of the cases where the AI in-house initiatives have come up. And these are the areas where the workflows have already been established using AI ML by GeoPic team. And keeping all in future. So we have come up with an energy strategy 2040. Where by 2040, our production, revenue, profits and market capitalization are going to increase from what they are right now. For this, there are 6 enablers have been defined. One of the key enabler is going digital, drive efficiency through digital. For this, what we have done is, I think the scrolling got stopped again. I'll unshare and share it. I think you need to help me again while going live. So one of the key strategies is developing an IT and digital transformation strategy with a digital and IT governance roadmap, establishing DCOE to create business values, holistic look at current systems, identify potential opportunities, and define a set of initiatives with clear impacts and timelines. So these are the 6 identified initiatives we are doing. We'll be shortly implementing under DCOE. We are at engineering stage and RFP will shortly issued. The real-time production surveillance, including virtual flow metering and gas lift optimization, digital operator rounds and inspection, predictive asset maintenance for critical equipment, station support and visualization system for plants, common reporting and drilling analytics basically, and video analytics for plants. So these are the area 6, the immediate areas where we'll be implementing. So leveraging technologies, making ONGC future ready has been one of the key goal of all this exercise, where we plan to implement data-driven decision making with advanced predictive analytics and ML models. So this is where we are trying to leverage the digital technology and make it improve the business. I can say a sort of business initiatives are not only for excellence, but also develop new role models, trying to find new businesses so that not just incremental changes, maybe with a change can be done stepwise because the targets and the goals to be achieved are very steep and very challenging. And thank you, gentlemen. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, sir, for that mind-boggling presentations in terms of where ONGC is today. But I think one thing that becomes very clear from your presentation is we can see the size of the digital, size of the digital. So there's a huge for oil and gas companies, and that's what ONGC is intending to do. So great, sir. You touched many areas, many aspects of the digital, bringing into your process, bringing into your field scale, your subsurface data analysis, and also bringing in new tools and platforms such as the SAS for your analytics, ALML driven data science applications in oil and gas. So that was great. Thank you very much. I'm going to invite the third speaker of the day, third speaker of the sessions, Mr. Sandeep Gupta, Chief Digital and Information Officer, Cairn India Limited. He's talking on digital journey at Cairn. So let's see. I'm sure the presentation is going to be equally scintillating as the ONGC has done from the operator perspective, and we'll see a real glimpse of what Cairn is doing, and that's their foray. But I'm aware that Cairn has done great deal of work in digital transformations. So with this, if Mr. Sandeep Gupta, you may come in, please.
Thank you, Mr. Painuly. And again, it's a pleasure to me to be part of this summit. And see, as part of the digital journey at Cairn, I have, very simple 3 slides. And as I was listening to my other esteemed panelists, I think there were a couple of times it was mentioned that what is the KPIs and how do we measure digital, right? So I have 3 slides. And the first one will briefly speak about the digitalization vision at Cairn. Number 2 would be the roadmap as to what we have done recently at Cairn and what we want to do in future, specifically on digital. And number 3 is I will give you a snapshot of some of the projects which we are doing. Probably we won't have the time to get into details of each of these projects, but I will briefly mention some of our flagship or the important projects which we are doing. Right. So now looking at the digitalization vision at Cairn, see at Vedanta at Cairn, we right now produce 25% of the India's oil and gas. And our vision is to produce 50%. In order to achieve that vision, we all know that digital will play a very important role. But at the same time, if you look into digital, sometimes what we see is that is it implementation of those shiny new technologies, or is this needs to be imbibed as a way of working? So what do we have to do? And sometimes, the question keeps on coming. This is not a technology play. This is much broader than that. Then what are the ways, how do we imbibe and ensure that digital is imbibed in an organization? Couple of things. One is we very need to clearly articulate what is the gain from each and every initiative which we are taking. And number 2 is how do we ensure that this is culturally imbibed? So we have seen instances where if you don't speak to the business team, they will not actually adopt that. So you get a latest technology, but if it is not adopted, it is of no use, right? So and how do we track this? So that's why I wanted to share this as to whenever we start any digital project, we very clearly define what is the gain which we are getting through that project. And again, the gain can be some absolute numbers, which can be, it can increase to a production, it can decrease to a cost, but it can be also some of the other softer elements, which can be, around the HSE score, GHG emission, and most importantly is the entire stakeholder experience. In terms of this can be either the enabling functions like the HR finance in terms of automation, which we are doing, but more importantly in our operators, in terms of people at fields. Are we simplifying the way they are working? Are they still using Excel, or are we finding out, automation opportunities of what they are doing right now? So, these are some of the parameters which I wanted to share as to how we track that. And again, if we get into each of these and look into the value chain of upstream, there is some tangible, we have a template where we try to find out exploration and new field development. Just to take an example, we recently started a project where we are putting our GNG workstations over to cloud. This is good, but sometimes we make the mistake of telling that this is over to cloud, so you only get benefits of the machines which you need not keep right now, and this will be over cloud. That is one part of it. But if you look from a business perspective, it possibly can reduce our first time to oil by 25%. If this reduces our first time to oil, which basically means I can start producing oil 25% earlier. And this actually translates into volume. So this is how we, across each of these parameters, probably I won't get into each of these parameters, but I just wanted to highlight, this is how we track. And this is a very important aspect in digital. And that's the reason I wanted to put this as a slide number. Now, getting into the digital journey at Cairn, and sometimes the question would be, I'm sure you wouldn't have started from 2018. You would be doing much and other things before 2018. Why we have put 2018 is to actually detail it out, because there has been so much of happenings in digital in the last few years. That's why I wanted to, break it up and actually show the dimension in terms of what we are doing. See, we started our, if I say, strategically, we started our journey in 2018, where we assessed and saw, where are we and where we want to be. And one of the key things which came up when we did our assessment was data would be the key element. If you don't have the right set of data at a centralized place, whatever you do, it will always not give you overall benefits and results. So as you see in 2019, the first thing which we did was create a data lake, an Azure data lake. But again, this was the start of. Okay, so this is basically a brief snapshot of our journey, what we have undertaken in last 3-4 years. And again, 2 or 3 key points which come out from this is that you definitely need a data lake. I think that was one of our key learnings. Second was specifically on the security roadmap. Specifically, you need to define the OT securities, specifically for upstream. If you see IT, OT, and specifically the OT part of it is so important that we need to have a security roadmap for that. That's number 2. Number 3 would possibly be, we are at a stage right now where we have pointed digital solutions. What we are now looking at is across the value chain. And again, if you look into from a value chain perspective, whether this can be a reservoir management system, whether this can be a process digital twin, whether it can be an integrated operations center, which covers various parts of it. I think we have reached a stage where we have actually done a lot of digital initiatives across each of the areas. Another important initiative which we are starting is digitalization across the polymer value chain. So if you see, polymer has the highest cost in terms of upstream oil and gas, especially in a declining oil field scenario. So we look into that across the value chain of polymer and see what are the opportunities from sourcing till we actually put the polymer in the ground. What are the opportunities? That will be a very big project which we are starting from a digital perspective. Lastly, if we look into some of the key enablers, see any digital initiatives, we need some of the enablers, such as the organization design. We had a revamp of our organization design where we had digital champions, both from the digital team as well as the business unit. And that's how it is working seamlessly. So you need to have these enablers in place as you actually, embark on your digital transformation journey. Capability building, specifically on AI ML skill set, both internally and externally. How do you source the idea, get the ideas from the team? How do you get it implemented either internally or externally is what we have streamlined. And lastly is the startup engagement. So we have a program where we encourage a lot of startups. It's more than 100 plus startups which we have. And we ask them to do a POC, because this is every area is so evolving and there are specialized niche startups where you want to do a POC and then you want to scale it up.
So, I mean, these are some of the key enablers which we have in order to aid our entire digital journey at Cairn. I know we have few minutes, so I won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but I wanted to give a very quick snapshot if you look into the value chain and what we are doing. Exploration and new field development, we started with our integrated petrotechnical cloud migration, which is GNG workstation. We are also starting on a POC for OSDU. So basically now on our data lake, we have time series data of the instruments. We have SAP data. Our next target would be to actually take, now with this initiative, we will have the process data from the GNG, but the next target would be to take seismic and raw data over to cloud. And that would actually lead to a lot of benefits, if you look from a first time to oil perspective. Another thing what we have done is from surface and subsurface operation is the edge and IoT based monitoring. We have remote oil fields, and it used to take a substantial time for an engineer to visit that. We recently, kickstarted a project where we are monitoring these critical devices. And once we look into this, we realize this is not just a benefit of engineers' time, which is getting saved. We are getting, to know the maintenance is getting reduced. We are getting the ESG benefits because you don't have to travel frequently to those remote locations. Safety is getting improved. So these are the other benefits which we actually get when we implement digital projects. Finally, drone-based inspection. Yes, we have done this. This is specifically for overhead lines. So we have those power cables which used to stand. Now we have drones who actually take photos, try to understand, what is the condition, and then based on that we do a preemptive repair before it gets snapped. Lastly is the AI-based safety surveillance. We are in a POC phase right now, and very important and exciting project which we are doing is cameras at the site to monitor what are the safety things which are not getting measured. So the camera tells us that we got so many measurements, 20 measurements, which were not possible for a person to monitor. This is actually getting rolled out at a Vedanta level, not just at a Cairn level. And that's a very important and a significant project. With that, I'll just take a pause here and happy for any questions, thoughts.
So thank you, Sandeep Gupta, Mr. Sandeep Gupta, for very comprehensively explaining the Cairn's digital initiatives in a few slides. So that's more the compliment is because the number of slides are very less, but you explained that there is entire digital transformation landscape that the Cairn India is implementing across the oil and gas assets. So very nice. Thank you very much for that very fruitful and very operator perspective presentations on the digital imperatives, digital initiatives, especially you're talking about drones. So that these are the new things, especially in the Indian context, drone-based monitoring, drone-based seismic data acquisitions. That's what we would like you to go to some of these areas, given the government policy landscape for use of drones. But cycle time reduction. So I think the chair will definitely sum up some of these areas from each presenter point of view. So with this, I think my thanks to you and for your presentations. So I'm moving on to our fourth speaker, Mousimi Deka, from General Manager and the head of the ERP at All India Limited. So Mousimi Deka, please, you can start your presentations. He's going to talk on digital acceleration in the E&P industry, the All India Limited perspective.
Dr. Painuly, the chair, co-chair, my co-panelist, and august audience. A very good afternoon to you all. At the very outset, I would like to thank the organizer of this August forum and for giving me the opportunity to speak a few words. The topic of my discussion is digital acceleration in E&P industry. If you see the induction of digital technology, we find that the digital technology induction happened in upstream oil and gas industry in the very early age. Our G&G activities generally require a very complex geoscientific calculations, and because of that, the digital technology evolved in this sector earlier. Accordingly, the organizations have implemented the digital technology in seismic data processing and interpretation since 1970s. And in our organization, Oil India Limited adopted seismic data processing, then well logging, interpretation in 1977. If you see the activities associated with this business, there are a lot of activities associated. Those can be categorized as G&G, drilling, production, transportation, which are the core activities of our upstream industries. And there exist some non-core activities like finance, materials, HR, engineering services to support these core activities to perform their operations. As we all know, these are the main activities of our industries. Then if we find the incorporation of digital technologies in this field, we find that adoption of digital technology is more in G&G, as I've already explained, and it is a little bit less in drilling and production, and in transportation, again, it is high. And in non-core activities like finance, materials, and HR, because of the existence of the structured ERP system, the adoption of digital technology is more, and engineering services, it is less. Now, it is pertinent to note that oil and gas activities are capital intensive in nature and where safety risk factors are associated with this business. So although the rapid prototyping, that is the fail early, fail fast, learn faster of new digital technologies, which is acceptable in other sectors apart from the upstream oil and gas industries, but for the capital intensive business such as ONG cannot solely rely on the trial and error approach. In our organization, we have the strategy once and adopt. When a new technology comes, we generally stay such that so that it goes to maturity level and then we adopt. But now we are going ahead with the pilot project or POC, and then if it's successful, we go ahead with the full-fledged adoption of the technology. So here we can say that although we have started very early in the G&G activities, that incorporation of digital technology, however, acceleration couldn't happen the way it might have happened like other industries. A complex ecosystem and a legacy asset base have constrained the digital evolution of the drilling and production segment early. However, over the period of time, as per need of various activities, digital technologies have grown, and as ONGC has said, there are a lot of technology they have implemented. Similarly, Oil India Limited also, we have brought many digital technologies. We are having a very strong backbone of our land, WAN, and radio connectivity research so that we give the communication system to the end user who is situated in the far-flung areas. Again, we are having that SAP system, SCADA system, ENP data bank system, our own homegrown Cairn knowledge management portal, and many other things we have developed. But now we have seen that the challenges faced because of the silos approach. Over the period of time, whatever digital technologies incorporated and which were implemented in silos. And because of that, data integrity, data management, system maintenance, then hardware maintenance become a challenge. End users of the individual applications are gaining the benefit from those applications, but however, overall decision making, where in our industry, the decision making happens with many of the activities. So that one was not realized. So we felt the need of the hour is to look into our whatever the digital technology have adopted in a different eye. So holistic digital transformation becomes the need of the hour. So now there are a lot of digital emerging technology now available in the market, and to address those issues. And so we are going ahead with implementation of our digital transformation journey using this digital transformation. In the name of Project Drive, Digital Readiness for Innovation and Value in E&P, all has embarked upon its digital transformation journey since 2019. It is aiming towards more agility and efficiency, safety and ROI, and it aims towards bringing the new fit-for-purpose technology, inculcate cultural changes in the mindset of people. A well-planned digital roadmap for the organization aligned with its corporate vision is the need of the hour. So accordingly, all has hired the service of a reputed consultancy firm. The job of developing and implementing the digital roadmap is being carried out by the consultant in collaboration with organization's multidisciplinary team and with various domain experts. While carrying ahead with this digital transformation journey, a holistic approach has been taken involving all the stakeholders. So the much needed digital acceleration getting the momentum now. The multidisciplinary team along with the consultant, they have had the workshops, interviews, brainstorming sessions with various stakeholders to know their pain areas, their challenges, their present digital initiatives, their aspirations, and to find out the as-is assessment. And the gap is identified and which is compared with the industry standard practices, and to be target state level has been identified, and accordingly various digital use cases, list of initiatives are identified. Under the Project Drive, 5 themes have been selected: intelligent production, smart exploration and drilling, safe and productive workforce, supply chain and projects excellence, and agile enterprises. Under these 5 themes, lot of initiatives have been chosen, and those are chosen by the brainstorming sessions held with the various stakeholders. An organization is in the process of implementation of 11 digital initiatives, and those are selected based on benefit, cost, and ease of implementation. One is the real-time production monitoring and analytics, where we'll be deploying our IoT sensors in the well level to the RF frequency. The data will be coming from the well level and to the A server. And this is the typical example of IT-OT integration, and where also the SCADA data will be coming to the A server, and where the analytics will be carried out, and the relevant data will be sitting in our SAP system for the MIS reporting. Connected Worker is one more initiative where the connection is not there. The far-flung areas where it is forest kind of thing or jungles are there people will go and with the handheld devices, and they will go to the well site and input the relevant data in the iPad or the handheld devices. And while they will be coming to the office after getting the connection, it will be deployed in our server. Condition-based maintenance is for the prediction of the failure of our equipment is another initiative. Bowser movement optimization is for improving our bowser movement. Real-time operations center for drilling is another example of IoT and IT-OT integration, where the IoT sensors will be deployed in the rig and where the data will be coming to the common center where infrastructure is going to be built, and with the big center. And the data, relevant data, again will be coming to SAP for MIS reporting. Daily data policy is right now under implementation. Then AI-based reservoir modeling, the very much important that reservoir modeling software, as we all know that reservoir modeling takes time, but we do hope that with AI implementation, this will drastically reduce the time for taking this modeling as well as decision making. HSE incident reporting and tracking is another initiatives, and drone surveillance for miscreant activity. PRPO dashboard for procurement, it will be giving the resilience and transparency to the vendors, and CXO dashboard, and which is already we have gone live, and that is the much needed decision making dashboard, the data to informations to the decisions. So these are the initiatives our organization is presently moving forward. And here we must say that the organization feels that people involvement is the important criteria for successful digital transformation. So the methodologies adopted for selecting, then prioritizing the initiatives is by doing brainstorming sessions with the in-house domain experts, and each initiative has its
2 minutes, please.
Excuse me?
Can you please conclude in 2-3 minutes, please?
Okay. Each initiative has a champion and spoke. Each initiative is owned by a department responsible. Then core team provides the necessary help and support. And organization feels that we should groom the digital talent and the skills, so necessary training to be imparted. So methodologies adopted or few initiatives have been taken as a complete project, some initiatives considered as a pilot project, and for faster implementation, we have adopted the cloud technology, because if we feel that if the pilot project is successful, we have to enhance it, and it is better can be managed in the cloud technology. And we are putting trust on AI, ML, and advanced analytics to reduce the decision-making time, and everything we are taking care of the cyber security. Here I'm showing some picture from the drone surveillance. It is giving the fruitful results to our security personnel, and we are carrying out day as well as night surveillance through this drone deployment. It is giving the good results. Invoice to pay automation is towards the transparency and efficiency in vendor payment, and people are really appreciating this effort. The vendors are really getting benefit. HSE reporting is another another initiative which has gone live, and CXO dashboard. In the name of DARPAN, digitally augmented reflection of performance and analytics narratives, it is a very good initiative. We recently went live where the data lake is created in the Microsoft Azure, and the data from various sources, whatever we have done in the earlier, we are bringing into this data lake from the SAP, from the Excel, from the Access, from the SQL. Wherever the data are there, so we are going to clean this. This is a challenge for cleanliness. We are doing that one in the process, and everything we are coming into this dashboard. It is already went live and people are using it. It is a very good solutions, and we can proudly say from oil and gas side, and which we are going right now. Here, I'd like to mention that oil has experienced a paradigm shift of oil culture, and during COVID-19 pandemic situations, an acceleration happened while giving the digital helping hand to the user, collaboration tool like WebEx, Microsoft Teams, webcam, VPN, video conferencing system, adoption of cloud technology, our enhancing mailbox sizes. We have gone to the O365 solutions, and with the document sharing also. E-Office for faster approval. We went ahead with the paperless, and we have gone with the mobile devices also, Fury application in the SAP, where the leave sanction approval is happening from the handheld devices. So we've seen that the digital adoption is growing in the organization, digital fluency built up. So digital acceleration is happening. It needs sustainability. And with this digital transformation journey, our project drive, successful digital execution is happening. With future digital innovation will definitely grow, focusing on agility and collaboration. And we are lucky to have our top management support, and keeping the digital wheel running, our organization is moving forward. With this, I am stopping, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mousimi, Deka, for presenting your All India Limited's digital transformation landscape and the roadmap which is underway, I think, right? So that was a great opportunity, but well, the time is limited. I think there's one reason we are cutting short on the time, just to manage the time, but thank you very much. We personally know your drive towards digitization. We have seen ourselves. So with these few words, let me thank you from my side, and the chair will thank you later. So the fifth speaker of the day is Saurabh Tayal from Accenture. He's the senior principal of Accenture, and he's going to talk on digital maturity. So that's an important concept of the digital transformation, digital maturity, and need of transformation in ENP. So over to you, Saurabh, Mr. Saurabh Tayal.
Thank you, Mr. Painuly. Do we have to wait for a queue? Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel and talk about a topic where I spend a lot of time currently. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Co-Chair, for this session. We have actually, a lot has been said about digitalization agenda in the upstream industry, and I'll try to possibly add further to what has already been spoken. So basically, energy industry has been, and this has been said, has been a bit of a laggard in terms of catching up to, digital as a roadmap. But I think there are companies, if you look at the global landscape, companies like PP, Acre, etc., who have been the pioneer and have leapfrogged further into the digital world. And I think a lot of other companies have started moving very rapidly, taking up digital solutions. But so, having said that, digital has been around even in the energy industry for a bit now, and there has been a journey that it has kind of traversed. There is a maturity path that it has traversed, right? So if I take a functional view of digital, there are certain functions which are the business end of, the upstream company, which is around production, drilling, and maintenance. Essentially, a lot of focus has been on kind of, investing in digital solutions, automation, digitizing, processes, etc., in the front end part of the business, because this is where I think, most of the tangible value resides. But when you look at some of the support functions, there are a lot of solutions available because, these are kind of fungible functions across industries. Adoption is increasing as we speak. There's no dearth of solutions when we look at some of the support functions. And then there are functions around safety, exploration, etc., where new solutions are still emerging, right? So it has some catching up to do vis-a-vis some of the other areas that we see. On the right side, if you take a technology cut also, there has been a bit of journey. Things have moved from IoT, AI, ML, analytics, cloud, to more of drone, blockchain, video analytics kind of things now. And I think Ms. Deka also spoke about some of the drone solutions. Earlier also, some of my colleagues spoke about some of these emerging technologies. So there has been a journey that digital has kind of taken. I'll not talk about use cases as such, because I think all of us know there is enough and more of use cases across all the functions. And I'll also not try and talk about the benefits of each of the use cases, because I believe, the benefits are not linked to the use case as such. It's more linked to how you implement a particular use case, right? So, this is just an illustrative placemat of some of the use cases. If you have a problem statement in upstream, there is a very high probability somewhere around the world there is a solution that some company has implemented and successfully, right? So it basically boils down to how we implement it and how we realize value. So there is a difference between digitalization and digital transformation, and as we call it, digital transformation is hard, right? In fact, any transformation is hard, right? So and there are different paths that companies have taken to kind of digital excellence. And there is no right path, there is no right answer. Each company in its own context, with its own vision and time frame, they take different journeys. So if you look at how we can possibly divide, right, the various kind of use cases, so to say. So there is this whole angle of just connecting, anything that is happening on Excel or on paper or on a logbook, bringing it, basically digitizing all the data. Just connecting through OT and IT integration. There's a whole lot of use cases, especially when we look at India. There is a whole lot of action that is happening in just digitizing, and this is the first step to any kind of more advanced digitalization exercise. We need to have the data in a digital format which is accurate, which is coming at the right velocity, which is ready to be analyzed, where you can develop models, where you can generate insights. Part two is basically just about that, platformizing to create an intelligent enterprise, develop AI ML models. Third part is essentially moving away from the core of, I say, assets and basins, and more around the supply chain, how we move the product. So whether it's around browser movement or it's around pipelines, all kinds of solutions that we speak about there. And last one, safety and worker productivity. I think very important aspects in an oil and gas context. So if we were to, and there could be different ways in which you can cut the use cases. This is one view of it, and different companies can take different approaches. As I said, you can take a step-by-step approach, saying I'll first optimize, connect everything that I have, and then move to the next level. You can say, okay, I have understood digitalization is the way to go. There is no other. I mean, that's my growth path, right? So I'll invest. I'll go all in. I'll invest in digitizing or getting data online, and then I'll also invest in developing the right platforms, connecting everything together. There could be, client 4, as I say, towards the right, where they say that, we'll look at a more structured solution later, but right now my need is to correct. And I see a lot of quick wins, low hanging fruits, as we call it, across the value chain. So let me just pick and choose. There are enough number of proven solutions. I'll just do some of these point solutions and derive some quick value before I kind of move into a more structured approach towards digitizing my organization. So essentially what we believe is, and I'll talk about, I think the heart of what I want to talk about is, how we derive value out of these digital transformations. So one such example that I wanted to share with everyone here was essentially, this is a work that we've done with our client, is basically saying that it's not about looking at point solutions. You define a North Star, you define a vision in terms of what you want to achieve, and kind of then backtrack and say, to achieve that vision, these are the 5 solutions that I need to implement. It's never about one solution where you say that, okay, I want to do predictive asset maintenance. No. So there is a more larger, longer term vision, and then you work towards achieving that vision through a set of initiatives which will kind of contribute and support each other. So if you look at this example, company moved from work prioritization based on daily routine to based on production impact. Move from reactive to a proactive approach when it comes to production losses. Move from person-based decision, depending on his experience, to actually enabling him with data so that decisions are data backed and no longer person dependent, and so on and so forth. And you see the kind of value, 2 to 9% uplift in production, lifting cost reduction, safety improvement. So there's upwards of $500 million of cumulative benefit that they could achieve over a 2 to 3 year period. So there is a lot of value to be realized, but as I said, it is hard. And and these are some of the factors that we can keep in mind when we are talking of digitalization as we mature through the journey. So first and foremost, and I'll talk about 3 or 4 important points out of this slide. First and foremost is what you see on the top. The amount of effort that organizations I have seen typically spend, the share is largely in ideation and implementation, which takes up 80% of the effort, or maybe more. The whole change management, the whole imbibing the solution, the changing the processes at the ground level, the operator, the field operator accepting those solutions. That's where I think most of the time needs to be spent. So, I mean, this 10, 20, 70 could be, you can have your own organization's lens on it, but the point I'm trying to make is the right side is where one should emphasize. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is don't look at it as a software implementation program. It is not. It is. So when we say transformation, it is about reimagining all the process flows that go along with it. So if we are implementing a real-time production system, management system, how that will change the life of the operator on the ground, how will he do things differently? That needs to be defined and upfront when we are defining the solution. Because unless that happens, the solution will be implemented, the adoption rates will be low, and eventually I think the blame will come on the solution rather than the way it is implemented. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is
Mr. Saurabh, can you please conclude in 2 minutes, because one speaker is left out and already session timing is over. So please.
Sure, no problem. So just 2 more points and I'll conclude. So one is third is essentially more and more we should look at typical implementation approaches. We implement the solution and the partner moves out. I think what we are hearing more and more now is that operate versus implement, which is basically saying that after implementation, the partner should stick around and run the solution for a couple of years, which also helps from a change management perspective, but also creates ownership and is able to create much more value rather than just a pure implementation and an AMC subsequently. And finally, last point on this slide is around digital upskilling. There's having a one line, a couple of paragraphs in the scope of work saying change management sometimes does not suffice. I've seen organizations take independent programs, which is just about digital upskilling of the workforce, just about that. So these two, the digitalization and the upskilling have to go hand in hand, and there has to be enough focus and maybe independent programs which are focused on digital upskilling. So with that, I'll possibly close. Open to any questions. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I think sorry for cutting you short on this, but we have one more last speaker of the day before session chair will sum up. So let me call Ms. Salwa Mohammed Noor, representing Halliburton India, I guess. So Salwa, can you start your presentation, please?
Okay. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. My name is Salwa Mohammed Noor from Halliburton Landmark. This is the outline of my presentation today. This presentation is a quick review of how we engage with an exploration department to define the challenges they were facing and the value in solving them. We will then focus a little more on one of the many projects that was defined in the process. The client is a major national oil company in Asia Pacific looking to minimize costs and uncertainties while maximizing efficiency and production and optimizing technology available. Now, the customer had identified that they had challenges in exploration, and among the range of challenges that they are facing, we are going to focus on 2 of those challenges for this presentation. The first challenge is on the long exploration cycle due to the lack of collaboration between teams, impacting the business agility. And the second challenge is on workflow inefficiencies because there's too many software applications, which makes import and export data between applications time-consuming and hassle. And also, there was also a lack of common centralized database, and the team members were complaining that there was a lack of awareness in the project status. The client also has established what are the visions that they want to be in the future. So among the visions that they have is to reduce the basin to prospect analysis from 24 months to 8 months, and to increase the team efficiency with collaboration through a single integrated platform. Now the customer know what are the challenges that they're having, but they do not know how to resolve them. So what is the Halliburton approach? We started with the Smart Vision assessment. Smart Vision is a change management methodology where we assess the current state, we analyze what are the challenges, we identify how to overcome those challenges, and we plan for the implementation roadmap. So we held several exploration workshops, and also some assessment and interview sessions with the client. So what are the findings and outcomes from that session? There were more than 200 data points that were gathered, identified, and then classified into classifications and categories. So if you look on the right-hand side, that is the classification of the issues. And most of the issues are on project tracking and on data management. And if those issues are categorized, most of the category falls into technology, processes, and data. Now, if we look at those 200 data points, we will see that 40% of that is impacting collaboration, 67% have impact on time, and 32% have impact on technical accuracy. So from those assessments, from the findings, more than 20 projects were then identified, with each of those projects having their values and their return on investment estimated. The projects were then ranked based on the client's business needs. The customers are then free to choose which of those projects that they wanted to invest in. And some of the projects were carried out internally within the client company. Some were carried out with Halliburton, and some were actually carried out by third-party companies that is not related to Halliburton. And that's okay, because that is the focus, which is on resolving the challenges. Okay, so for now, we will focus on one of those projects that was done by Halliburton, which is called the Exploration Gateway. So what is Exploration Gateway? The Exploration Gateway is a portal built upon DSIF, Decision Space Integration Foundation, that provides a single focus for exploration, technical, and business activities. This is a single place where you can check on project activities, portfolio management, data availability, application and workflow launchers, and this is the home to all of the client's digital solutions. So when we build the Exploration Gateway, what we have in mind is to enable users to track and manage the projects from basin to prospect in order to drive the project efficiency, to consolidate all of the workflow and the launcher of all of the applications in one place, to allow users to quickly find all available data, searching for the data and visualizing the data, and enabling them to populate their projects with the data available, as well as allowing users to perform data analytics, generate reports, and visualize dashboards. So let's look at the components of the Exploration Gateway. When you launch Exploration Gateway, the landing page is on project activity and business activity. Here you can see announcements with exploration events, milestones, and action items. There is also a project quick map showing the decision space geoscience interpretation project as hotspots, reflecting the activities of those projects and the status of the project. Users are able to access the Exploration Gateway with different roles, such as for those who are managers and for team members. If you click on the next tab in the Exploration Workflow and Exploration Gateway, you'll be able to see the project status and tracking. Project timeline and milestone awareness was one of the top 3 issues that was raised in the original Smart Vision assessment. So here, in this page, you are able...
Madam, can I request you to please conclude in 2 minutes, because people from...
Yes. Here you have the purpose of able to publish and inform on the status of exploration project, and you are able to analyze project status and plan versus actual milestone and team performance. Okay, and on another tab, you will be able to see data availability. Data availability was the #1 issue for exploration efficiency. This is where you are able to search, filter, view, and select data from the available databases. And the geoscientists are able to quickly find the data that they want to use, put it in cart, and download it to their project. And in the upcoming phases, OSDU will be one of the data sources. In the upcoming phases, we will also include exploration business process management, where you can see business processes, where each of the business processes will have their own traffic light signs, so you can see which is ongoing and which is delayed or behind schedule. This will enable you to capture and manage documentation at the decision point, and at any point you can look back at the project decision making and investigate the sensitivities of each of those control points. One of the benefits of having a common exploration portal is the ability to see data in geological context. So rather than finding out data from various sources, all of the geologically related data are now able to be reviewed in one common portal. So to conclude my presentation for today, I will end it with the impact of the Exploration Gateway project, where data is now easier than ever to look for, and loading data is at a much faster rate. You will also be able to quickly reference what are the project status in the Exploration Gateway instead of having to spend time looking for the project update, as well as all the applications are now being able to launch in one place. So we estimate that 60% of time we're saved when searching for data, 50% time we're saved in searching for the project status update, and 70% of time we're saved in workflow execution. With that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Salwa, for presenting challenges and value, and also the various components of the exploration gateway on behalf of the Halliburton. So with this, over to you, Chair of the session, Singh sir, to conclude and thank.
So, good evening, everybody. Good evening, all the panelists, all the esteemed dignitaries from the government and the delegates who are connected virtually. I would not like to go in details summing up the presentation of each and every speakers, because they were self-explanatory, and in fact there is not much of time. We are already half an hour ahead. So, but what I could get that there are some guiding principles that companies should consider when developing digital business models. Digital transformation is not a technology-led solution. It is a business-led transformation that leverages technology. Secondly, this transformation requires all aspects of the operating model, vision, strategy, process, culture, and behaviors to encompass digitization. Digital solutions need to be holistic. All dimensions of a company and its operating system, ecosystem, need to be digitally enabled. Companies need to develop their own digital transformations, which I think all the speakers have highlighted during their presentations. And because there is no best practice model which can be replicated to other companies. So getting the right weighing between technical and technology capability is very critical. In fact, this digitization requires a lot of deliberations. We have very shortage of time. In fact, the next time when we have some similar kind of conferences, we would request organizers to have more sessions for deliberating this digitization in ENP. It's very important, and I thank each and everybody for that excellent presentation. I'm sorry that I could not give much of time. In fact, I was consistently requesting Painuly ji that can we reduce some time, more time, because there are people from the other panel, they are waiting in the lobby. So, so thank you very much, and let us have a beginning again in the next conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.